Brother Brad.
Thanks, Steve. Good morning, everyone. We'll, of course, be turning in our Bibles into the book of Deuteronomy again. Got about 4 chapters left, I believe. We're going to start in chapter 29 this morning. And as we get close here to the end of this book of the Bible, we're also nearing the end of the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. And life of Moses is coming to an end as well here in the book of Deuteronomy. As you read these last chapters, to me it's kind of sad. After studying these previous books, you get to know Moses pretty good. He put up with a lot. He had a big job to do. And and he was faithful. Of course, he made mistakes along the way, But like I said, it's a sad end to me as I read it and get to know Moses really well. And Steve in his introduction this morning talking about farming and growing crops and stuff like that, may not think about it very much, but you've got God's people here, God's chosen people who've been wandering in the wilderness for 40 years, and they have not been able to grow crops and produce for themselves, because they've been on the move. And they're heading to a land, the land of milk and honey, where they're going to have to do that. Because who has been providing for these people for 40 years? God. He's given them water. He's given them manna. The shoes on their feet never wore out, and the clothes on their back didn't wear out. So God has protected these people through that entire 40 years. And this whole book of Deuteronomy, Moses has been telling them, in order to be blessed and be prosperous in this new land of milk and honey, the promised land, you've got to obey God. You've got to obey God. And the one thing he keeps warning them about, Moses, is warning them about when they get in that land. Now think about this. Over and over again, he says, don't succumb to worshiping false gods and idols and etc. like that. And to us, that might seem kind of strange and foreign, in a way it does, but in a way it don't. You can see in everyday life how people get attracted to idols and stuff. But they got the deck stacked against them right here. If you think about it, they're a clean slate. They don't know that much about providing for themselves, producing, farming, etc. Like Steve takes it for granted. A lot of the things he knows about growing stuff, they're going to learn some of this stuff as they go because they've been marching in the wilderness for 40 years. But those Canaanites who are there, now how have they been providing for themselves? We know they got false gods. They worship idols. So they are an agricultural community. They're a farming community as well. And of course, when they have a bountiful harvest or something, they'll run into their little high place or something, and they'll make offerings and worship their false gods. Now, what do we know through all these warnings that Moses has been telling the Israelites to watch out for when they get in there? Don't fall for false gods and worship. And when they get in that land, they're going to see that the Canaanites, they grow crops and they're prosperous. And if they don't watch it, they're going to seek advice and help from the Canaanites. Man, how did you grow this? How was this so bountiful? You learn that stuff from your neighbors, believe it or not. And if they don't watch it, and the Canaanite people think about, we do this, and then our fish god, we go in and offer something to fish god, and our crops grow, and the next thing you know, they might be succumbing to that, and they might do that. So it's a real warning that Moses has been giving God's people all this time going into there. So, and just like to bring that out, and here in chapter 29, I'll start reading verses 1 through 9. We touched on it a little bit last week, but I'll just go ahead and start fresh this morning. But just remember, this book of Deuteronomy is a warning, over and over again. They get warned about what happens when they get into this land of milk and honey. There we go. We found chapter 29 here. There it is. I scribbled over some of it. But all right, verses 1 through 9, chapter 29. All right. These are the words of the covenant which the Lord commanded Moses to make with the children of Israel. Wait a minute. We missed that. I done got past all that. We're starting in chapter. I knew that as soon as I read it. Here we go, chapter 31. We done all the covenant. Yeah, this is where we started last week because I talked a little bit about Moses where he says he's going to be 120 years old and he's going to pass on. Yeah, so that's where we started here. I got that's part of not being able to see good, number one, too. When you wear glasses thick as a Coke bottle, that's mine. But anyway, chapter 31 will get us back up to speed. And let me start, and I'm going to read verses 1 through 5. Charges related to Moses, chapter 31, verse 1. And Moses went and spake these words unto all Israel, and he said unto them, I am 120 years old this day. I can no more go out and come in. Also the Lord hath said unto me, thou shalt not go over this Jordan. What he's saying there is God's not going to let him cross the Jordan like the rest of the Israelites as he goes into the land of milk and honey. He's going to stay on the east side. The Lord thy God, he will go over before thee, and he will destroy these nations from before thee, and thou shalt possess them. And Joshua, he shall go over before thee as the Lord hath said. And the Lord shall do unto them as he did to Sihon and to Og the giant, bed 14 or 13 foot long, iron bed, king of the Amorites, and unto the land of them who he destroyed. And the Lord shall give them up before your face, that ye may do unto them according unto all the commandments which I have commanded you. So Moses is not going to make it. Joshua's going to be in charge. And yes, there's going to be some battles to fight when they get in that land of milk and honey. It's not just all good. It's going to be some hard times as they go through that. All right, verses 6 through 8. Be strong and of a good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord thy God, he it is that doth go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. So God's going to go with them. Don't doubt that for a moment. Be strong and be courageous. And Moses called unto Joshua and said unto him in the sight of all Israel, Be strong and of good courage, for thou must go with this people into the land which the Lord hath sworn unto their fathers to give them, and thou shalt cause them to inherit it. They're going to inherit each tribe portions of their land. Of course, we've learned that numerous times. And the Lord, he is that doth go before thee. He will be with thee, and he will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed. All right. And just remember, these verses right here, the Lord won't forsake them. But we know that's only good and true as long as they're not worshiping false gods and they turn their back on God, because God will turn his face, and we will read that in upcoming verses coming up in the chapters ahead of us here, if they don't stay faithful to God and obey. All right, now see if I had anything to add to that. No. Okay, and I'm going to read 9 through 13. And Moses wrote this law and delivered it unto the priests of the sons of Levi. It's going to be put and written down now, and it won't be forgotten, which bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and to all the elders of Israel. And Moses commanded them, saying, At the end of every 7 years, in the solemnity of the year of release, that was that debt release year, in the Feast of Tabernacles, remember that's what they call the Feast of Booths, and that's in the fall of the year, at the autumn harvest, when all Israel is come to appear before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose, thou shalt read this law before all Israel in their hearing. All right, so they're going to do that once a year. They're going to read that law. And if you'll think back, we've read and studied some in the chapters and books coming up and books of the Bible. We know they turn away from this. In the books of the Kings, we find it. Josiah actually digs out the writing and starts reading it again. So we know in the future, if they don't do this, that kingdom of Israel is going to fail. It's going to fall. And that's one of the things that they quit doing was reading that once a year so everybody could hear it. So therefore, being separated from God's word is what's going to lead to the nation. It's going to be failure. So not paying attention to it. All right, let me get on through here. Verse 12. Gather the people together, men and women and children. That's everybody. And thy stranger that is within thy gates, that they may hear and that they may learn and fear the Lord your God and observe to do all the words of this law, and that their children which have not known anything may hear and learn to fear the Lord your God as long as ye live in the land whither you go over Jordan to possess it. So they're to do this, of course, as they get into the promised land and keep doing it. All right. See if I left anything in there. No. 14 through 18, moving right along. And the Lord said unto Moses, Behold, thy days approach that thou must die. Call Joshua and present yourselves in the tabernacle of the congregation. That Moses and Joshua went and presented themselves in the tabernacle of the congregation. And the Lord appeared in the tabernacle in a pillar of a cloud, and a pillar of a cloud stood over the door of the tabernacle. And the Lord said unto Moses, Behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, and this people will rise up and go a-whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land, whither they go to be among them. That's what I was talking about a while ago, is that they're not going to be faithful to the one true God. They're going to end up falling into that and having relationships with false gods. It's going to happen. God's already telling Moses here. And will forsake me and break my covenant which I have made with them. And God's made a covenant. They're going to have a land of milk and honey there if they just only obey. Then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them. Like I said earlier, God's going to turn his head. He's going to hide his face from them. And I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them. Now, who's going to devour these Israelites? It's these Canaanites in this land. If they don't watch it, and they get tangled up in them false gods, there's going to be battles. They're going to lose that way. We'll read in the future that the Canaanites, the neighbors, the ones that survive, the ones that they don't completely destroy, as God told, some of them were to be destroyed. They will raid at harvest time. They will come in when it's harvest time and steal their crops, steal their food from them. It's going to be a lot of that happening. It's all because they didn't obey God and do what God's told them to do in these laws. And I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured. Many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they will say in that day, Are not these evils come upon us because our God is not among us? And I will surely hide my face in that day for the evils which they shall wrought, and they are turned unto other gods. Now, therefore, anyway, I'll stop at 18 there. And I will surely hide my face, so that day for all the evils which they shall have wrought, in that they are turned to other gods. So like I said earlier, they've been warned all this time of what's in that land besides milk and honey. If they don't watch it, they're going to end up worshiping false gods, and that's what God's telling them is going to happen here when they have that, when they're not faithful to God. All right, now 19 through 21. Now, therefore, write ye this song for you, and teach it the children of Israel. Put it in their mouths, that this song may be a witness for me against the children of Israel. For when I shall have brought them into the land which I swear unto the fathers, that floweth with milk and honey, they shall have eaten and filled themselves and waxen fat. Just another way of saying they comfortably arrogant at this point in time. They've had an easy life. They've been prosperous. Life has got easy. Everything comes easy, and then they get very comfortable and arrogant, and thinking, they forget God's the one that's provided all this, and they get to thinking that they're doing this themselves. That's what's going to happen. Then they will turn unto other gods, and that's because why they turning into? Because they're prosperous. How does these people get prosperous in this land? It's agriculture. That's what a lot of them, how they going to live. That's how they make it in this time. And turn into others, serve them and provoke me and break my covenant. So when they start seeking out and thinking these false gods is what's blessed them, that's when God's going to hide his face. And it shall come to pass when many evils and troubles are befallen them, that this song shall testify against them as a witness, for it shall not be forgotten out of the mouths of their seed, their children. For I know their imagination, which they go about even now before I have brought them into the land which I swear. God's going to bring them into this land anyway, knowing what's going to happen. And, there again, that tells you the patience and the love and the mercy of our God. He don't just wipe them out to start with, but God is long-suffering, patient, and merciful. So, and this song is to help remember requirements of the covenant, so they don't forget that. All right, so they've got their part to do. God made the covenant. They didn't make no deal, but they got to do what God has addressed them, and this song will be a way for them to remember that. 22 through 23. So we're going to find out about this song. Moses therefore wrote this song the same day and taught it to the children of Israel. And he gave Joshua the son of Nun in charge and said, Be strong and of good courage, for thou shalt bring the children of Israel into the land which I swear unto them, and I will be with thee. So this song's coming up. The Song of Moses is coming up here in the next chapter, chapter 32. Now I'm going to read 24 through 27. And it came to pass, when Moses had made an end of writing the words of this law in a book until they were finished, that Moses commanded the Levites which bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord, saying, Take this book of the law and put it inside of the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, that it may be there for a witness against thee. For I know thy rebellion and thy stiff neck. How many times God has told Moses, this is a stiff-necked people. And here they are still, after 40 years of trying to clean the slate, getting Egypt out of his people. He's got that out of them, hopefully, because we remember how it was when they first started that wilderness wanderings. They kept wanting to go back to the land of Egypt and enjoy the plentiful existence they had there, but now all that's out, but they got to watch out for when they go into this new land. You have been rebellious against the Lord, and how much more after my death? So Moses predicting what are they going to do after that. All right, so I got through, after my death. And it's going to be even worse after Moses dies eventually, so we'll see that. 28 through 30. Gather unto me all the elders of your tribes, and that's the leaders of each tribe. They had, if you'll remember, that was decided way back when, and they had to have leaders of each tribe to kind of pass the responsibilities that were kind of lessened off of Moses, and each tribe had people who were responsible getting back with him, stuff like that, kind of like a chain of command. Speak words in their ears and call heaven and earth to record against them. For I know that after my death you will utterly corrupt yourselves and turn aside from the way which I have commanded you, and evil will befall you in latter days, because you will do evil in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger through the work of your hands. So, you almost want to say the end. At that, as sad as that is about what Moses said, but in all reality, we're just getting started. We got a long way to go, lots coming. So, and that's the long game too that I'm talking about, not just the time in the promised land. We got a lot riding on all about to happen. All right, so we got here chapter 32, the Song of Moses, and it's a long psalm of praise to God, a song of praise to God. And there's a good bit of other information in here as we go along. So it reads pretty quick. Most of it is self-explanatory, and I'll try to get through it and explain some of it as we go. All right, verses 1 through 4. It's going to list 7 characteristics of God here if we go through it. Chapter 32, verse 1. Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew, as a small rain upon the tender herb, and the showers upon the grass. Because I will publish the name of the Lord, ascribe ye greatness unto our God. God is great. 1 through 4. He is the rock. Rock is the strength, is what, that's a strength, the rock. This work is perfect, for all his ways are judgment, and a God of truth, and without iniquity, just and right is he. There's nothing wrong in God. And of course, the rock is the strength. Work is perfect, without blemish. Truth, we know, and just and right, and righteous in principles and practice. So everything God is part of there, it's just and it's right in the principles as it's laid out, and in the practice in which God does it. There's no room for error, nor no room to be try to find some kind of problem in there in it. Everything God does is for a reason. It's a just reason, and it's right. Just remember that. Our way of thinking is not always the way that God's way of thinking is. Verse 5 through verse 5 and 6. They have corrupted themselves, their spot. Now it's just a blemish, a bad spot of his children. They are perverse and a crooked generation. Pretty self-explanatory. Do ye thus requite the Lord, O foolish people, and unwise? Is not he thy father that hath brought thee? Hath he not made thee and established thee? Just reminding them that God had brought them out of Egypt, made them what they are today. They would have never made it through the wilderness if it had not been for God. They would have withered up and died and never, it would have been nothing. They would have never made it. They couldn't have made it. All right, 7 through 14. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. Yep. Thought I made a note about Jacob. But when the Most High divided the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. He found them in a desert land, in the waste howling wilderness. He led them about. He instructed him. He kept him as the apple of his eye. All the way back to the time of Abraham and forward, God has been there. God has been the one making the direction here. As the eagle stirreth up her nest and fluttereth over her young and spreadeth abroad her wings, taketh them, beareth them on her wings. God has always been there to take care of and protect ever since Abraham's time. So the Lord alone did lead him, and there was no strange God with him, up to Isaac and Jacob as well. And he made him ride on the high places of the earth, that he might eat the increase of the fields, and made him to suck honey out of the rock and oil out of the flinty rock, butter of kine and milk of sheep, with fat of lambs and rams of the breed of Bashan. That's just up in the northern part of the land. Real, if you'll remember, that part of the land tend to produce animals that are very strong and big. It is a very prosperous land. And goats with the fatted kidneys of wheat, and thou didst drink the pure blood of the grape. So all that, remember the past, has always set Israel apart and would bless them in the land they were about to go. Is summarize the verses we just read there, 7 through 14. 15 through 18. But Jeshurun, and that's another name, symbolic name for Israel, the upright one. So, that is like when other nations look, they'll know that Israel is an upright name, standing above, higher than the other nations, an upright name. But Jeshurun, Israel, the nation of Israel, waxed fat and kicked. Thou art waxen fat, thou art grown thick, and thou art covered with fatness. Then they forsook God, which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. So what's going to happen? God's going to make them fat, wealthy, rich, and they're going to forget who done it. That's what they're going to do. They provoked God. In verse 16, they provoked him to jealousy with strange gods. They're not going to give God the credit for the waxing fat. It's just repeated over and over right here, and that's where we're at. And that's the main thing. Abominations provoke they him to anger by worshiping these false gods. Verse 17, they sacrificed unto devils, not to God, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. 18, Of the rock that begat thee, thou art unmindful, and hast forgotten God that formed thee. Through all the waxing fat and being prosperous, first thing that's going to happen if they don't watch it, they're just going to forget who done it, who going to made it possible. They're going to forget the one true God. 19 through 26. Let me read them. And when the Lord saw it, he abhorred them. We know that's abhorred. He's completely, just devastated about that, turned against them because of the provoking of his sons. That's just the disappointment, and of his daughters. God's disappointed in what they've done. And he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be, for they are a very forward generation. Just know they're rebellious. That's stiff-necked in there, thrown in there again. You could throw that in there, but children in whom is no faith. So not only are they going to be rebellious, stiff, they're going to turn to children of no faith. They're going to completely drop. They're going to lose it all if they don't watch it. And it's just because they forget where they come from. Easy words. Forget who blessed them and forget where they come from. All right. 21. They have moved me to jealousy. We know God's a jealous God. That which is not God, they have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. He's going to bless somebody else in their punishment in this. How do you think the nations, if we read into the future, like the Assyrians, the Babylonians, they became fat, waxed fat nations, and when they come in and they sack Jerusalem and the land of Israel and eventually defeat them and tear everything down, those nations, God made them strong, and it's strong enough that they overtook these people, and it was all because of their disobedience, lack to obey. Give God credit when credit's due. All right. So, 22. For fire is kindled in mine anger. Yeah, we got that. 23. I will heap mischiefs upon them. I will spin mine arrows upon them. This here mischiefs and spin mine arrows upon him. God's going to hit them with famines, plagues, even the sword is going to. That's when I mentioned the Assyrians and the Babylonians coming up. Even before that, in the book of Judges, we'll learn a lot of stuff about the Philistines and the neighboring tribes. From Judges onward, it's going to be just a time of battle and fight and death and struggle. But anyway, 25. The sword without and terror within shall destroy both the young man and the virgin and the suckling, also with the man of gray hairs. Everybody's going to suffer. I said I would scatter them into the corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. We will read in the future that does happen when they're hauled off to other parts of the world. And it's all, God knows it all ahead of time, and Moses tried to tell them. All right. Children of no faith equals no direction. Remember that, because that's what it said. If they got no faith, there's no direction. They're not going to prosper. Not going to end up in the high places that they could be, the good places. Maybe high places ain't a good word for that, but the prosperous position they could hold is not going to happen because they have no faith, and their children have no faith. 27 through 30. Were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, and lest they should say, Our hand is high, and the Lord hath not done all this. For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. How should one chase 1,000? How should one chase 1,000? Two put 10,000 to flight, except their rock had sold them, and the Lord had shut them up. So what we got here is God limits the severity is judgment right here in these verses, instead of just completely wiping them out over his children, to keep the enemy from thinking it was their power that wiped out the children of Israel when his day comes. They're going to survive. There's going to be a remnant of them. It's always going, they're going to end up back in the land. But God is not going to do it in a way where these neighboring nations, these people of false gods and evil, are not going to think that it's something they done. They're going to kick back in the back of their mind. They're going to say, how did this happen? How did we get to this point? In the back of their mind, they're going to know something was up. And it's going to fall back on the fact that Israel didn't obey their God. And they're going to realize that this is the punishment for their failure to do what their God wanted them to do. So, all right. Now I'm going to read. And also I made a note here. Moses wishes that they understood God used their enemies in this way. How come they couldn't seen this early on? Think about it. That God was using their enemies to punish them like this. If they'd just obeyed God off from after the book of Judges, so to say, you think they would have picked up on it by then, but they didn't. You know, when the Philistines are standing out there and threatening them and going to whoop them, and they have to get poor old David to come up there and whoop them. You think from that point in time they would have learned that ain't the way to go, but they didn't. But anyway, 31 and 33, 31 through 33. For the rock is not as our rock, even our enemies themselves being judges. For their vine is of the vine of Solomon, and the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall, and their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of dragons and cruel venom of asps. The heathen and their enemies are from a wicked bloodline. It's pretty much my note on that when we read those verses there. That's where their wickedness comes from. It's there. 34 through 36. Is not this laid up in store with me and sealed up among my treasures? To me belongeth vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall slide in due time, for the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things that shall come upon them make haste. For the Lord shall judge his people and repent himself for his servants, when he seeth that their power is gone and there is none shut up or left. All right? God speaks, and he will judge his people in these verses. And, of course, he's going to change course when their strength is gone, is pretty much what he said in the last part of these verses. And because God is chastening them for their disobedience and the way they've been behaving. But he won't completely annihilate them, but he will change direction and way it's going to be once their strength is gone. And they're down, I like to say, to a clean slate, you would like to think. They're weak, and sometimes that's to the point where they're going to have to get down to realize that they can't fight these battles or continue on their own strength. They're going to have to reach out to God and pray to God to get them through these battles. All right. And with that, let me mark. I thought I had my pen with me, but anyway, I'll just mark it here. We'll stop there and give everybody time to get situated this morning, and I'll dismiss us with